Welcome everyone to our STEM superhero. Beautiful spring day, at least in California. I know it can be different all over the place, but it's very sunny in California. But we have two wonderful speakers. We have Marina Damiano and Alexandra de Paz. Both actually from the Midwest. I spent some time in the Midwest, correct? And they're going to really speak to some of the kind of interesting backgrounds of sort of new venture entrepreneurship. So I'm really excited to get started. So the way the slides or the way the format is they will individually give an overview of their background, career, and a little bit of, their personal life. And then you guys are all welcome to ask any questions. There is a Q&A section that you can put into that Jessica will be monitoring. And then, sorry, just for context, Jessica Perez, she's also my counterpart. I'm here at Stanford. Jessica is at Poets, I guess for University of Illinois, but I believe she's located in Texas. But we have partnered together to bring this event to life. So anyway, the format is that they're going to give individual talks briefly about their background and their experience, and then we'll open it up and you guys can ask any type of question you want, obviously within reason. And if not, we're also happy to we have a few questions that are in our back pocket, so we can have a really good time getting to know these wonderful superheroes. Okay. All right. So I think who we have up first is Marina. Okay. So I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to let Marina take the floor. And whenever you want to move a slide, let me know.
Okay. Thanks, Angela. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jessica, for having me too. Hello, welcome everyone. I'm super nervous today. I give presentations as part of my job, but today I'm really nervous, and I think it's because I'm so honored that you all took your lunchtime or your time on this beautiful day to come and listen to what I have to say and what Alexandra has to say. And I think it's really important to learn about all the opportunities that are available in STEM. And so this is high stakes for me. I hope you get something out of it. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my journey in STEM. Next slide. Okay, my early years. So I'm a native Chicagoan. I've lived here all my life. I did all my schooling here. And I came to Chicago by way of my mom, who's also a native Chicagoan, and my dad, who was born in Sicily, in Italy. So Italy, the little boot, so Italy shaped like a boot, right? And it's kicking a ball. And that ball is the island of Sicily. And my dad came from Sicily to the United States when he was 15 or 16. The whole family, he came with his 3 younger siblings and my grandparents, and they were in search of a better life, more opportunity in the United States. And so, that's kind of my background, and my dad ended up in Chicago and met my mom, and that's how I came here. But I wanted to tell you about that because neither of my parents are in STEM fields. My mom is an educator. She was the first woman in her family, an extended family, to go to college, but no STEM background. And my dad completed a little bit of a college equivalence in Sicily, but when he came here, he didn't speak the language, and so they put him in, I think it was 2nd grade with the 2nd graders, even though he was 16, because that was about his language equivalency. And he eventually they got with the program and learned that he was very smart, but he had to toil in that scenario, and with the help of other people who recognize that just because you don't speak the language of the country that you're in doesn't mean you're not smart and you can't, there's not opportunity for you. So my dad did not attend college here in the United States. I'm not sure exactly the reason. I think it's probably a couple of things of, needing to support the family and help with that, help the younger siblings adjust to the United States, help my grandparents. But he was very smart and excelled in entrepreneurship and worked and had several of his own businesses. And so I think that gene was passed along to me as well. So I'll go to the next slide. All right, so in high school, my world was really music. I played bass guitar, and upright bass, and I loved it. I was in jazz band, concert band. I accompanied the orchestra. I accompanied the choir. I played in musicals. I played with friends on the side. That was my world. I loved music. I did AP Music Theory as well. And I thought that that was the path that I was going to pursue after high school. But my hands kind of hurt when I played bass all the time, especially the big upright bass because it's so big. And I thought that I wasn't sure that that would be like a steady career path for me. So I kind of kept that as something that I love to do, but it wasn't my central kind of career focus. Also in high school, I really loved German. I loved, in grade school, I took Latin that was just offered in our school. And so I kind of had a handle on the Romance languages. And my high school offered German and I just fell in love with it. And I focused on that. I took German every year. I took AP. I had a 5 on the AP German exam, like the native level speaking. And I thought, I'm going to be a German teacher. This is going to be great. This is what I'm going to do. And I thought, well, after discussing with parents and advisors and realizing that my high school was one of only a few in the city of Chicago and the suburbs that offered German, I kind of thought, all right, well, that's probably not a very common job to have. So I need to think about something else. And I also did sports as well. It was there, but it wasn't my love. Science and math were courses that I liked. I didn't love them, but I was interested in them. And I didn't take biology in high school because I took it in grade school and I was able to test out of it. It was a thing that they did in the Chicago Public Schools. But I took environmental science was my first class. And then I took physics and chemistry. And when I was in chemistry, I was like, this is kind of interesting. The way atoms work, everything, what's going on in our world at a very teeny tiny level. And I enjoyed it. And my teacher encouraged me to take AP chemistry. And I took that and it was kind of fun. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll be a chemistry teacher, a science teacher. I think influenced by loving my teachers. Teachers are so important. Thank you to all the teachers. Loving my teachers and having a teacher for a mom, I thought, I'm going to teach science. And my chemistry teacher said, why don't you pursue a degree in science, a chemistry degree, and then if you decide you want to teach, you can get a master's in education or a teaching certificate, because this way you would know more about the hard sciences. You would have that hard science foundation. So I was like, okay, I didn't, kind of went along with it. I really trusted my teachers. So that was really the focus, a nice balance of science and arts and music was really how I was in high school. I didn't have exposure to research in high school. I remember some students did. I didn't really know how they found out about those opportunities. But I just knew that I liked science and it would be, something that I would try to pursue. Now, I did think that I would, with my love of German and my like for science, I thought, well, maybe I could work at a German pharmaceutical company or something like that, combine the two worlds. But that was where my mind was in high school. Next slide, please. So for college, for undergraduate, I went to DePaul University, and it's here in Chicago. It's in the heart of the city of Chicago, and it's a liberal arts teaching institution. So research is not the focus. It's more on teaching. And I went there. I know we had some questions about paying for college and everything. So I went there because it was a school that gave me the most money. And so, that was a theme of my college education. It's also a great school, but I really chose it above all, compared to the other schools that I got into, because I could stay by my family, I could get a good education, and I could get a lot of the school paid for. And they had opportunities for women in STEM as well. And I had some scholarships later there. And it was the best choice. It was such a great choice. It was a tighter knit experience. I got to know the science faculty really well. I got to be a teaching assistant. I got to do a little bit of research. And because I went to this type of institution, I was able to balance STEM and German and get a double major in STEM and German, or chemistry and German, and a minor in math. And I'm not sure that that would have been possible at a different type of school. But as you can see, STEM is important to me, but it's always balanced with other interests. So when it came time to graduate from college, I didn't really know. I knew that if I stuck with a bachelor's degree, that there would be we were mostly exposed to people who were doing work at the laboratory bench. They say at the bench, testing chemicals, running instruments, and that's great work and it's very necessary, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I was always drawn to healing and medicine, and so I really thought that I would combine some type of medicine or biomedical aspect into the work that I was doing, and that led me to apply to graduate school with a hope of focusing on some type of drug development or cancer research or something like that. So next slide. I went to Northwestern University, which is it's in Evanston, a suburb of Chicago. And I started in the organic chemistry program, which is what I was good at in college. I liked it. I did natural product synthesis, so like making compounds of drugs or drugs. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this in grad school. And then I actually got there and I realized, I'm actually really more attracted to nanotechnology, which Stanford Nano Labs is hosting this, so some of you may know a bit about it, but nanotechnology is the study of things that's really, really small. If you take a strand of your hair and divide that into 1,000 pieces, that's 1 nanometer. So we're talking super tiny. And so the research that I did in graduate school was nanotechnology based, and I was trying to find new ways to use nanotechnology to treat cancer. To avoid, chemotherapy is a common approach to treating cancer, and it works because it attacks all the cells in our body, both the cancer cells and the healthy cells. And because it attacks the healthy cells, that's why we have all these bad side effects. And so I was using nanotechnology to figure out how could we attack the cancer cells, but leave the healthy cells alone, and hopefully have a treatment that wasn't as damaging to the person. So that was my research in graduate school. And during that time in the laboratory, I attended many career panels, and that's when I learned about science communication. And I had a communication fellowship at Northwestern, did some training also at Harvard and MIT, and really learned about this career path and thought this is great for me. And so that's the path I pursued. And on the right side of your slide, you see me, here's the musical theme. I never stopped doing music. I never stopped doing the things, I stopped having a well-rounded life. What you see there is me at the Old Town School of Music in Chicago, taking a Brazilian percussion class. This is our batucada. I'm in the back with that arrow playing the rebolo, which is a Brazilian drum. And we're leading a samba parade for a big festival in the summer. So again, I just wanted to reinforce that, you do what you love in STEM, but also have balance in your life. There's room to pursue lots of things. Next slide. And so just to wrap it up, so I graduated from DePaul with a BS in chemistry and a BA in German and a math minor and a PhD in chemistry from Northwestern. And I mentioned to you that I liked science communication. So my first job out of graduate school was working at an agency, an advertising agency and public relations agency for science and healthcare companies. I did that for several years. It's all about spreading the word about scientists and research and helping to advise the world on how science should and should not be used for decision making. And so for the last 6 years, I've done this as my own business, Damiano Group Scientific Communications, where I do that type of work. I also go back to colleges and universities and help scientists and other STEM researchers communicate their research. I've taught at Northwestern, and I've also held leadership roles in the Association for Women in Science, the Chicago chapter, including past president. So I talked a lot. Hopefully I didn't go too far over. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to taking questions.
Thank you. That was a great start. And then we're going to pivot over to Alexandra. Okay. All right. So whenever you're ready, Alexandra.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Marina. That was so enjoyable to hear. I feel like I definitely could identify some themes of what you were saying that really resonated with me. So, well, without further ado, hi, everybody. It's really great to meet you. I definitely second what Marina was saying about definitely wanting to help you guys. And if there's anything that we say that resonates with you that you'd like to touch upon later during the Q&A, please don't hesitate to ask. We are here for you, however we can be of assistance. So my name is Alexandra de Paz. This is just a really brief snapshot of me. So I have a PhD in biological sciences from Northwestern University, specifically focusing on synthetic biology. And my current position is also at Northwestern University, where I work as the Assistant Director of New Ventures of our Innovation and New Ventures Office, also known as INVO. So before I go to the next slide, I actually want to sort of start a little bit from the beginning, because I think in my next slide I start at college, and I think I should give a little bit more background than that. So I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida. This is home of the Florida Gators. My parents actually moved from Puerto Rico. Their families independently moved from Puerto Rico when they were teenagers to Gainesville, Florida, and they attended the University of Florida, which is where they met. Just for some context, my mom is one of 5 siblings and my dad is one of 8. And for the most part, all of my uncles and aunts stayed in Gainesville, this really small college town. So I grew up with so many cousins, and really my family is like this giant Puerto Rican, loud, super musical and joyous family. So I was very fortunate to have them as a network growing up. You know, so growing up, my mom, she went to art school. She taught Spanish and art in high school and middle school. And my dad is an environmental engineer. And so as you can imagine, I kind of grew up with a very balanced approach to, you know, both STEM and sort of the liberal arts. So for instance, I would say that, you know, reading Harry Potter and writing fan fiction and, you know, building, you know, like forts out of blankets, was that kind of creativity was just as encouraged as, for instance, learning our times tables and learning how to read a periodic table. So we really kind of had equal emphasis on both the liberal arts and STEM growing up, which I think helped kind of cultivate my sister and I into these more sort of well-rounded kind of thinkers when it comes to our interests. And so, you know, when it came to choosing where to go to college, I didn't really, I only ended up applying to the University of Florida. I thought, you know, my parents went there. If I stay here, I'll be 15 minutes away. There was also the motivation that it would be free for me, which was a really good, motivation to go. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like I said, in some ways, growing up with equal emphasis on, you know, everything makes you a little confused about what you want to put what you want to focus on. I never felt like I was particularly good at math, like that wasn't my thing. But what really resonated with me in high school was English literature. So maybe we can go to the next slide now. So when I started at the University of Florida, I thought, okay, I will be an English literature major, and let's just sprinkle pre-med in there too, because I want to tackle the STEM aspect, even though, to be completely honest, my heart just wasn't in pre-med. And at the time, and probably still now, this is a very common track most like freshmen start with if they don't know what they want to do. And so my sister, she's a year younger than me, and she had just, when she started in her college, so she ended up going to MIT. And I remember she started taking these courses in bioengineering. And at the time, this was kind of a new field. And she talked, my sister and I are super close, like we're only a year apart. So we're, you know, very, very, like basically best friends. And we talk a lot about her classes, and she started telling me about these courses she was taking that were taking, you know, engineering principles and applying them to, you know, how, you know, molecular processes and cells and how proteins move. And it was really kind of like science fiction, and having an appreciation for fantasy science fiction. This was like really exciting to me. And I thought, wow, that's so fascinating. I wonder if I can do something like that at my school. And unfortunately, the University of Florida didn't have a similar major, but we did have a track to create our own major. And so I ended up kind of cobbling a bunch of classes together from engineering and pre-med, and I even got to take some elective like graduate courses in biomedical engineering and chemical engineering, and I just lumped them all together and I called it Biomolecular Engineering. And this was really great and theoretical, but I still didn't really know how this kind of manifested in the real world. And so I looked to some summer research opportunities. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I looked to MIT, which was my original source of inspiration. I ended up doing a summer internship at their bioengineering department. And it was really cool. I got to do research in this lab that was basically using synthetic biology to, create these genetic tools to study the malaria parasite. And it was such a fun experience. And I remember that was my first foray ever into benchtop research. And after that summer, I felt like, okay, I love this. And so I went back at the next summer. I found another summer research opportunity in the same area, this time at a place called the Broad Institute. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Broad, this is kind of where the birthplace of the Human Genome Project is. So it's a really cool institution. It kind of feels like the Disneyland of science. And I remember here I got to work on, creating new drugs for schizophrenia. And then when I went back, I was also doing research at this point at my university. And so at this point, it kind of become like, just by lining up these different experiences, I was starting to get a real flavor for what graduate school might look like. And so I had this opportunity that I think was a real kind of a pivot, or not a pivot, but a real decision point for me. Based on the work I had done at the Broad Institute, I got to present a poster at this conference called ABRCAMS. And so ABRCAMS stands for Annual Biomedical Research Conference for minority students, and it's one of the biggest conferences that exists. And so when I went, I thought, oh, I'm just going to present my poster. It'll be good networking. What I didn't realize is that there's like a giant graduate school fair that's has 100 different universities present, all representing their graduate program. So this felt like going to a book fair and just getting to meet every graduate program that existed. And it completely blew my mind. I had, maybe a vague idea of the graduate programs that existed on the East and the West Coast, but nothing else other than that. So I remember coming across Northwestern University, their stall, and I approached them, and I remember talking to their program coordinator for this program called Interdisciplinary Biological Sciences, called IBIS. And it sounded so cool. I mean, it was like at the intersection of all these different fields. You could be really interdisciplinary with your approach to your research. And that's where I learned about the fantastic synthetic biology labs that were at Northwestern. So by this point, I was basically sold. And perhaps unsurprisingly, I ended up going to Northwestern to this very program. So maybe we can go to the next slide. So I started the following fall in this program, and I got to join this fantastic lab, Keith Tayo's lab, where I got to work on creating new synthetic biology-based tools for better understanding and mapping the brain. Again, a very sci-fi type of project that was very ambitious, but kept me busy for many years. Thankfully, along with doing my thesis work, I also had the opportunity to explore a lot of outside interests. So I spent some time doing different communicating science workshops and classes where essentially you learn how to take these complex scientific topics and really distill them into these easily digestible pieces and better relay them to general audiences. And so I became really passionate about this, and I just love the idea of being a storyteller for science. And then that kind of ended up turning into more of an exploration of how can we now take science and translate it into something having impact. So how can we, think about commercialization? And so that drew me to a couple of business programs. There was a little condensed MBA program offered by our business school that I had the opportunity to attend. Oh, well, now you get to see all my family photos. That's infinitely more interesting, but no, sorry. So we were, so I did some business, this little condensed MBA course, and that got me thinking about, this idea of making impact and, how do you take a business approach to commercial, to research. And so actually we can go to the next slide. So after kind of learning foundational principles of business through this very condensed course, I started looking for opportunities to apply this. And so that led me to the INVO office. So this is Northwestern's technology transfer office. And technology transfer is basically what it sounds like. It's taking technology, like fundamental research within the labs of a university, and transferring them out to benefit sort of the society, to go into the market and benefit the public. And so it's this idea of getting technologies out there. And so I learned about what that entailed. I did this internship where I got to assess, you know, the patentability and the commercialization potential of technologies from all kinds of labs across Northwestern. And it was so exciting to get that exposure to so many different fields, having kind of for a while been doing the same thing for quite a few years in my research. That led to doing a couple more business related type of activities. And then I actually came back to do another internship at INVO, this time as a venture associate. And so what I got to do is, rather than evaluate technologies that were just coming out of labs, I got to evaluate startups that were spinning out of research at Northwestern to evaluate them for making potential investments. And so this is what got me really interested in venture capital. And luckily, very shortly after, a position opened up at INVO, and this was right around the time when I was still, when I was getting ready to write my dissertation. And so I had the opportunity to take that position, to be in that position part-time while I was still writing my dissertation. And I did that for a few months up until my thesis defense, which was last February. Those are some fun photos of me being knighted by my PhD advisor, which was really fun. And then I transitioned to full-time last March, and I've been working remotely in Florida, but full-time at INVO since. And so my current role is a little bit of a compilation of what I've done in my internships. I essentially support our faculty-led startups at Northwestern in a variety of ways, whether that's connecting them to potential funding, whether that's giving them the resources to, you know, commercialization education resources to learn how to be entrepreneurs, or whether that's even giving them potential investment to get to really kickstart their entrepreneurial journeys. So I do a little bit of everything, and it's really exciting. So enough about my career and my educational background. We can now go into some more fun pictures. So these are some photos of my family. The pictures in the top left are actually in Puerto Rico, where I had the opportunity to go a couple years ago. The one at the bottom, we're in this like tiny 8-person little jet, because it was the only way that we could get to this island off the coast of Puerto Rico called Vieques. And so we were a little terrified right before we were taking off. The picture in the middle is us this past Christmas, actually. We rented a cabin in North Carolina in the mountains, and we kind of, you know, spent our Christmas isolated there, and it was really fun. We went all out with the decorations, as you can see. And then the top right is us on top of a mountain that we hiked. And then the bottom right is us on a beach in Puerto Rico. So that's my family. And then if we go to the last slide, just a couple of things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy a lot of things. These are probably more of my focus interests since the pandemic began. So on the top left, you can see that I enjoy boxing. It's super, super fun. I don't hurt anyone, don't worry. It's a really good workout, and it's a lot of, like, you know, learning technique, which is really fun. I also have picked up bike riding since I've been in Florida. We have really beautiful nature trails that I've enjoyed using. I also really like baking. Those are on the top right. You see some really aesthetic Christmas cookies that my sister artfully arranged after we cleaned up the big mess that we left to make them. And then at the bottom, you see those are my pets. So I have Hermione, the Siamese cat. She's very chatty. And then we have my Yorkie poo, Darwin, who is very energetic, even as a senior citizen. He's like 11 years old, but he acts like a puppy. And then just I'll finally say I really enjoyed reading a lot during the pandemic. I love fiction. I love fantasy. And so that's something that I also enjoy doing. So I'll stop there and happily take any questions.
Thank you. Sorry about that snap view. My mouse got stuck. But let me stop my share and see if anyone has any questions. So again, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or not the chat, the Q&A section. But we do have a question from Celestino, which is, what is the most difficult class you took? I think that is a great question. Anybody? Anybody want to go first?
Gosh, in what, Celestino, in high school and college and grad school? Which one you thinking?
I think the question got sent out when you're talking about organic chemistry classes. So I think it was maybe college or maybe getting into high school. I don't know. You could probably pick both.
I gotta think about that for a second. I mean, I know as a chemistry major, physical chemistry got someone just grown at that.
College.
College?
Yeah, college.
Okay. Yeah. Physical chemistry got a really bad reputation as being a very difficult course. And it totally was. But it was kind of fun. So I would say that was challenging. Actually, I took a mathematical theory class. It was writing proofs, like proving that equations were true. And I actually found that very difficult. So I would say those, God, it's been a while. So that's what comes to mind immediately for me.
I will second physical chemistry was pretty hard, but my hardest, I have to, I think like I loved organic chemistry. I actually really loved all of my bioengineering courses. The class I took a few like foundational engineering classes, and at UF they don't tailor them so that they're like for your field. They're like, oh, take these mechanical engineering classes and then take these civil engineering classes that are like for those disciplines that have no relation whatsoever to what you're actually learning. So my hardest course, without a doubt, was static mechanics. This was a mechanical engineering like foundational course. And physics was never my forte, but static mechanics, like those free body diagrams. And I think the final exam was like 2 questions, but it takes like an hour to do them. It was that level, and you're just terrified because you're like, what's going to happen? And so I managed to do okay, but it was a terrifying course. But yeah, I think mechanical engineering was just not for me.
You just brought back my memory, Alexandra. Circuit diagrams in physics. That was the hardest thing for me.
Also very hard, yes.
Sorry, Tino, you're really coming in with the question. So he also said, please call him Tino.
Okay, Tino.
What class inspired you in your path? I think that's a great question. Alexandra, do you want to start?
Yeah. I took a course. So I have to say the courses that were the most relevant to what I ended up doing were, at least at UF, were the graduate courses. And this was because like UF still didn't have a biomedical engineering undergrad program. They just developed the grad program. So this was a little bit of a weird situation, but I took this one class called, I think it was protein engineering. And that was pretty wild. I mean, this is like you're learning how to manipulate proteins to do completely different functions from what they natively do. And you feel a little bit like, it's really like a Frankenstein situation. And you feel it's very exciting, and there's a lot that can go wrong, but that ability to, create on-demand molecules towards very defined purposes that can benefit society somehow by either being some new diagnostic or potentially being a new therapeutic was really exciting. And I think that was the course that probably felt the most close to what I ended up doing in my PhD.
I would say for me in college, I really liked biochemistry. Not necessarily learning, not necessarily every little reaction. I found that a little bit tedious to remember, but just the thought that there was something deeper into, like there was some beauty in what happens in our bodies and when we take in food and when we take in, just like there's a whole science to it. I thought that was pretty inspirational. And then in grad school, I took a class called biophysical chemistry. And again, same kind of theme. It was learning about it's almost like the art of what happens in our bodies when we take a drug or when proteins interact and move around. I think when, articulating this now, it's like those classes that looked at the art of science were very inspirational to me, and also had some type of biomedical background.
I'll just add to that, that even though I didn't end up using this particular course in my like PhD or, career, when I took organic chemistry, it changed my world. I mean, the process of synthesis was like, that was the pinnacle of problem solving. And it just felt like putting together a puzzle, and it was the payoff of figuring it out was so satisfying. And even though I never had to use organic chemistry, I loved pushing those electrons. I loved those arrows. I loved figuring out like the quickest way to synthesize a particular compound or molecule. It was so fun, just from like a pure science problem solving perspective.
Okay, Tino says thank you. I have a question. So, I think because you have such varied backgrounds, and I think Alexandra sort of touched upon this, but, what does your day-to-day look like? It sounds like there is some variety, but can you kind of give a general idea of, what do you do? And maybe Marina first.
Sure. My day, no day is the same. So, so at any given moment, I am, well, let's see, what did I do yesterday? I negotiated a contract for a new client, and I worked with my lawyers. I did some work for some of my clients. One is a large global medical device company that makes things like pacemakers and insulin, glucose monitoring devices for people with diabetes. And so we were talking about how to communicate their work internally. So that was one thing. Then I was working with my graphic designer to communicate scientific concepts, to have her make them visual so that we could make a flyer for a client. Just on Saturday, I did a workshop for a university on writing for science and marketing careers, science communication and marketing careers. So I was, teaching, lecturing, and I'm going to do some individual coaching. So it really varies, though the central activity is communicating strategically and effectively to my audience, whoever that is. And then, of course, running a business is the secondary task.
No small task. I agree wholeheartedly with that. My position, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't really provide a daily snapshot because my position is really dynamic. It moves so rapidly and often changes in focal point. 1 hour I might be in a partnering meeting with a VC group, learning about their investment thesis, what they're interested in, and promoting, good fit Northwestern startup companies that may be a good fit. The next hour I may be listening to one of our faculty members pitch their startup, and then counseling on next steps as they prepare to launch their company, connecting them with resources. Later in the day, I might shift to planning a new commercialization education program, or maybe instead identifying startup companies for potential investment through this fund that I manage called the Next Fund. So, I think the common theme is definitely entrepreneurial, supporting entrepreneurial endeavors across campus, but focusing on our faculty. But I think like the skills that I'm learning are so varied and diverse, and I ultimately get exposure to such a variety of different technologies spanning the campus that I'm always learning, and it's very fun and engaging.
Great, thank you. And a lot of the people attending, right, are in high school. Maybe thinking back when you were a high schooler, and I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what did your family say versus, what did you want to do? I know both of you had very creative families, which is kind of interesting. Did they kind of push you towards creativity, or, because your own science, like how did you decide, all those decisions, or all those little decisions, or is there a pivotal moment, like, for example, the organic chemistry example? I know that was in college, but maybe moving out of that.
Do you want me to take it?
Sure, go, whoever wants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I my mom was very supportive of what I was interested in, though there was always the, for me, and I think because of our like socioeconomic situation. My father also passed away when I was 16. So there was the real world. This was the real world. I didn't have the luxury of, you know, I didn't, it was very important to me that I chose a path that would be like relevant, would be doable financially, and would provide a good return in the future. And so that was honestly a really big influence in my choices. Though that's not to say that I wasn't forced to go in that path. I liked science. And like I said, I loved German too. And I was able to find a school that was where I could do both. Yeah, I also didn't have any scientists around me, so I didn't really know. I just kind of went with what I did well with in school. And like I said, I had great teachers who were very encouraging and good college counselors. And so just kind of talked it over with them. And that's how I ultimately made that decision.
Yeah, you know, I think with me, and so is this thinking about high school particularly?
Yeah, especially because a lot of our attendees are going to be in high school. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you know, I think in high school, I honestly, like, science was interesting, but so it was called the International Baccalaureate Program. It was an IB program. And for those of you familiar with that, it's like super focused on liberal arts and history and like reading comprehension, writing. I think it does a really good job cultivating those areas. It does have great science, like we had like, you know, AP biology and AP calculus. So those courses are there, but they're not as emphasized. And I just, you know, I wasn't like super excited about science or STEM as a high school student. I really have to say, like, English was pretty much what I was most interested in. And so it kind of took going to college and exploring for a while to find my stride. You know, I actually never felt like I was particularly good at math, even though I think I took AP Calc in high school and I did well, you know, but it wasn't something I felt like was my thing. And then I remember starting at UF, and my friend, who at the time who had gone through high school with me and was at the University of Florida, she loved math, like loved it. And she was majoring in math. And so I remember, because I was pre-med, I was taking like Calc 1 and she was taking it with me. And then she would start staying after the course to talk with the professor about the lecture because she just loved it. And I would stay with her because I was like, well, why not? And at first it was kind of boring. And I was like, I don't care. But then I stuck around long enough that it started to get really interesting. And I have to say, you know, the instructors, like the quality of the instructors, like that made a really big difference. We had the same professor for like Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 2 and Calc 3. And these were just phenomenal, like, instructors, and they made you really love it. And they created such a safe space for asking, like, you know, questions that you might think are too stupid to ask. And it helped me kind of come out of my shell and start to see the beauty of math, if you will. And so I kind of just stuck around taking it until I got to the point where I'd taken like Calc 3, like differential equations, honestly, just with my friend because I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, well, I guess I'm going to do engineering because I already have taken these engineering prereqs. And, you know, my family never thought of me as an engineer. And I think a part of me wanted to not prove them wrong, but show that there wasn't anything to stop me from doing it if I applied myself and if I was actually interested in it. So, you know, I had the benefit of great mentors, great instructors, really supportive family, but it was definitely a surprise to them. Like, my family was like, we never thought you would take all these math classes. And I was like, I honestly didn't either, but I'm glad I did.
That's great. Thank you.
I just wanted to add on to that. So you could see there's a theme for both of us where it just wasn't our first choice. And that's fine. There's a lot of pressure in high school to know what you want to do. I mean, and you know, it's kind of unfortunate because how are you supposed to know at 14 to 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life, or at least make that big decision for college? But so what I would say as a takeaway is, if there's something that you do in life outside of school that you find interesting, or something you read about, or something you see, or you talk to someone and it seems interesting to you, then dig a little, do a little bit of research and find out how, find out more about it. And maybe there's a career path or a life path there for you. I would say like my overall theme is I haven't done anything by the book, and it's definitely been difficult. But what I've learned, it's been so rewarding because you can truly create your own path if you do a little research, talk to people, listen to people, ask everyone their story. Even if it seems like they don't have anything to offer, you could probably learn something from everyone. So you just have to take the initiative, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marina, especially because I think Alexandra talked about, kind of designing her own major.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Oh, no, I mean, I was really like, and I felt bad for it, but I was like, I'm just not satisfied in any of these conventional majors. And I feel like I should be because this is what everyone's doing. And they're great majors, like there's nothing wrong with them, but why do they not feel right for me? And I kept pushing that and I kept asking and I kept finding a way to do something that felt more authentic to me. And then I found it. So yeah, definitely doubling down on what Marina said. It's possible for sure.
That's great. And I can feel, both of you have this entrepreneurial spirit, right? And we have a question that says, what skills or qualities do you think are helpful to successfully earn a degree in STEM? Do you have to be super smart? And then I did have a question earlier for STEM, which I'm so sorry I did not explain, but STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. But anyway, I'll throw it back to you guys on, what are the skills and qualities you think that are necessary to accomplish what you've accomplished?
Well, I can jump in really quickly just to say, I don't think you need to be like a genius or super smart to succeed in STEM. I think it starts with having even the slightest interest and inclination in learning more about it, like thinking this is kind of cool, let me dig deeper. And then just having patience with yourself and looking for, I have to say, the quality of teachers, mentors, people who believe in you, who are rooting you on, it helps you so much. I never pegged myself to be that kind of person that would be where I am now and go through the training I've gone through. But I think what's helped me throughout it is just being excited about the possibilities, being excited about it at a basic level and, how it can impact the world. And I think when you go through a PhD, like we used to joke in our lab, like, you don't have to be the smartest person to get a PhD. I think you just need to have a lot of persistence and perseverance and be able to do a lot of hard work and, like just persevere. Honestly, it's a bit of a survival instinct that you cultivate, and an ambition to see something great happen. And yeah, I'll stop there. I'll probably have more to add, but I don't think you have to be super smart. It's sort of like my takeaway.
Yeah, I don't even know what super smart means. I think that I agree with you, Alexandra, like if you have a little bit of interest, pursue it. And that's know that even if there's no one like you around you that's doing it, that you can still do it. And there's someone like you in the world who's doing it. And we have the internet now. I sound super old, but we have the internet now and you can research that. And if you find someone doing something that's interesting to you, you should reach out to them because they probably 95 to 99% of the time, they'd be willing to tell you more about it. And I would also echo that resilience and the ability to bounce back is also important. Nothing in life is easy, and you just have to know that you're worth it, and have a goal in mind, and try and build a support network if you don't have one already, and believe in yourself that you can achieve. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Advocate for yourself. That's number one. That's like my central message. Even if you have people who believe in you, it's really up to you sometimes. If there's a saying, like, if you just, I can't even remember what the saying is, but basically the point is, like, you don't know, you might be afraid to ask someone something or do something because they're going to say no, but you're not going to know if you don't ask. And what world of possibilities and opportunities are you opening yourself up to if you have the courage to ask and ask questions and learn. And so that's probably the courage to ask and learn more, and even ask for help too, I think is maybe my even top skill for success in these fields.
I'll also just add to that, and also I agree, I don't even know what super smart mean. I think that is like a construct that is there to scare us and make us, measure ourselves against something that we think we're not. And it's not, I think this is a very subjective thing, but, when you're getting your PhD, like it's really a marathon, it's not a sprint. And by the time you're done, you really are like the world's leading expert in this very narrow particular topic. But it's not that you're just, you were like emerged and this is just a natural, like, you snap your fingers and you're there. It's like you very, like for a very long time, just slowly move that needle forward by making mistakes, getting back up, trying again, trying something different. It's a very persistent, like steady process. And that's how you get there. Like none of this is overnight success. It's really about, seeing these things through and getting back up and trying again over and over.
Great, thank you. We have a few minutes left, so if there are any additional questions, please put them in the Q&A. Let's see if there's any last minute questions coming in. I just want to say I'm very impressed with the cookie skills, cookie decorating. And even photogging. So I just wanted to put that out there. I've heard, or I've been told, the best, bakers are chemists and engineers because they're very good at sort of all the measuring and weighing and all that sort of thing. So you should be very proud of those.
I will say that since I've stopped doing like bench side, because you're at the bench for so long, you're always used to moving around, using your hands, like measuring things. I've turned to cooking and baking as a bit of like a replacement for those skills. And my dad, like, I'm at home right now, and my dad will come and he'll just be like, you're such a scientist. Like he'll see me like looking for the meniscus level as I'm measuring like, some liquid. And I'm still using those skills even in, day-to-day activities. So you can't ever really unscientist yourself, I guess.
Okay, well, it doesn't, we got one more question. Thank you for the wonderful talk. Who was the greatest inspiration for your life? And again, Tino with the awesome question.
Tino. Ooh. I would say, and I think she might even be listening right now, my mom, because she, again, had nothing to do with science, but in STEM, but really just is a very strong and perseverant woman. And, all those skills that I said you need to have to be successful, she has them and demonstrates them. And I learned that from her. So I would say my mom.
That's a great answer.
I think I'd say my younger sister, who it's interesting because she was a year younger than me, but was really my biggest inspiration to pursuing my career path. I mean, I always I still look up to her so much, but she has this, just optimism and ability to see things. And she always inspired me with her optimism and her really big picture ideas and ability to just, see the bright side and the possibility in everything. And I think, not just in science, but in my entire career, being able to borrow from her perspective has helped me so much.
That's great. That's really great. With that, I think, we're almost to time. So I think we will wrap up. This was an awesome, conversation. And I really appreciate both of you giving us your time. And, again, to all attendees, if you want to tell a friend, I think we're hopefully going to do some more events. We'll see. I think right now we might put a pause on things, but please tell your friends. And, if you wanted to share this, we will put it on YouTube. So I will send out the link to the YouTube afterwards. So, and yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and Jessica for being my collaborator extraordinaire always. So yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. And Tino, I think maybe you should be a journalist or communicator because you asked really good questions. That's
Definitely.
my 2 cents.
You really did.
And thank you to all the other people who asked questions as well.
Thank you, everyone. This was fantastic.
Oh, wait, let's see. I think Tina says, oh, Tina says, no, I'm hooked on engineering already.
All right.
That's
Sounds
good
good,
too.
Tina.
Okay, well, with that, I will end things. And again, thank you so much. Big round of applause. I know it's kind of a weird time to be
Thank you. Thank you.
wonderful talk. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.